أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Today is the first lesson in the second Muqaddimah of al-Muqadimat al-Sanusiyah, and we will be talking about the madahib, the opinions, different opinions in the deliberate actions of the living beings. وفي أفعال الحيوان الاختيارية. الحيوان meaning the living animal, or the living being, basically. So that include humans and so on. So the Sheikh is saying, starting with what the Sheikh is saying here, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والمذاهب في الأفعال ثلاثة. المذاهب في الأفعال ثلاثة. So there are three opinions or three madahib about these actions, of the deliberate actions of the living creatures, basically. And as we said before, these muqaddimat are very high level, very basic, right? It just gives you the foundation. It's basic, but it's not superficial. It's important, and it actually touches upon very important and in-depth points sometimes. However, again, you have to bear in mind that this matter, for example, this issue, there are volumes and volumes of books have been written addressing it. And when we say, or when the Sheikh is saying there are three madhab or three opinions, they are actually like at a very high level three opinions. But when you drill down, they are actually more than that. And even each madhab or each opinion of that, there are sub opinions within it and so on. And that is not really the subject of our topic here, because we're just laying the foundation so that when you read about these issues in a more depth book, or inshallah in further more detailed or more advanced courses, you have the necessary prerequisites and understanding the general terms and so on and so forth. So anyway, the first madhab, the first opinion, is what the Sheikh is calling here madhab al-Jabriyah. Jabriya from Jabr, from compulsorily, for mandatory. People basically saying, okay, things happen compulsorily. We don't choose. There is no choice. There is no free will. So that's the first opinion. They deny the free will of anything. The second opinion, al-Qadariyah. Qadariyah from Qadar. And we all know what Qadar is. Qada wal Qadar, right? Qadar, basically the predetermined decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about how things will happen. So they are called Qadariyah because they deny it. They say, okay, there is no Qadar. That Qadar, that predetermination is not there. Right? And again, there are different madhabs about within this category of madahib, if you'd say. And they even say you shouldn't be calling us Qadariyah because we deny it. But actually, while they deny the Qadar of Allah, they actually affirm Qadar of your own. Like they say, because that thing has to happen. These issues or those actions has to happen. So they are saying there is nothing determined previously by Allah. We do it ourselves. And therefore, they affirm Qadar to themselves instead of affirming Qadar to Allah. And that's why they are calling, the Ahl Sunnah called them Qadariyah. And then the last madhab is madhab Ahl Sunnah, which we believe on. فمذهب الجبرية. So now we're starting talking about the first madhab, al-Jabriyah. What is that madhab? It is وجود الأفعال كلها بالقدرة الأزلية فقط. قدرة الأزلية, what does it mean? It's basically the eternal power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's power is what creates all actions and bring them into existence. Every single action. Okay? من غير مقارنة لقدرة حادثة. There is no emergent power that occurs or happens in order to affect or coincide with the action. So when you move your hand, it's basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creating that movement. You have nothing whatsoever with it. You have no power in that. You have nothing. It just happens compulsorily, basically. ومذهب القدرية, now the other extreme, basically. So that's on one side, al-Jabriyya. On the other side, قدرية. And what do you say? They say وجود الأفعال الاختيارية بالقدرة الحادثة فقط مباشرة أو تولدا. So what they are saying is those أفعال, those actions, and again we're talking about اختيارية here, like the deliberate actions. We're not talking about your heart beating, for example, or sorry, your heart pulses, your pumping, or your pulses, or your like stomach doing whatever it needs to do in order to digest food, for example. And we're not talking about anything like that. We're not talking about your neural or nerves or whatever in your entire body doing things, like even if you're sleeping. We're not talking about that. We're talking about specifically those actions that you do, right? Right. So they are saying those actions basically happen by the emergent power of the being that creating those. So basically, you are creating those actions either مباشرة, directly, or indirectly by something called تولدا, like generating. Okay, so they are saying there are two things here. So those actions happen in two means. There are two mechanisms by which those actions occur. They are occurring by in both mechanisms, they are occurring by your emergent power. It is an emergent power that you create yourself. And that basically, that power, whether it's either would do that action directly, or that action will be generated from that power by tawallud, by generating by like basically indirectly. And the third madhab is madhab Ahl Sunnah. So what is the madhab of Ahl Sunnah? Then you can see there are two sides of the like extreme, Jabriya, Qadariyya, and then madhab Ahl Sunnah is basically in the middle. We say Ahl Sunnah وجود الأفعال كلها بالقدرة الأزلية فقط. Right. So الأفعال كلها all the actions, whether اختيارية or all actions, كلها بالقدرة الأزلية. It happens with the قدرة الأزلية, with the eternal power, Allah's power only. Right. So basically, it is similar to what the Jabriya is saying from that aspect. وجود الأفعال كلها بالقدرة الأزلية فقط. However, Ahl Sunnah differs here. We are saying after that, with emergent power that does not affect the action, not by a mean of directly, whether that's directly or indirectly, so that power coincide with the action. So again, Ahl Sunnah say الأفعال كلها بالقدرة الأزلية فقط. So all actions occur and happen by or affected by, or like that what brings that into existence is the eternal power only, Allah's power basically. However, there is another power, the emergent power of the human being, the animal or whatever, that coincides with the action. All right? And this power has no effect, not directly, not and not by generating. Okay. Now let's go to the explanation more. يعني بالأفعال أفعال الحيوانات عاقلة أو غير عاقلة. So when we say أفعال actions, we mean أفعال الحيوانات, all living creatures, living like beings, whether عاقلة, like whether basically human beings, or غير عاقلة, or animals, like what we, any kind of animal that moves. فجعل الجبرية جميعها اضطرارا. الجبرية made those actions, all of them, اضطرارا, compulsorily, or necessary. It's basically there are no action, no free will whatsoever. They are exactly as the shaking, حركة الارتعاش. ليس للحيوان قدرة تتعلق بها. So the what we call deliberate actions of movement or whatever, anything that any human, any being will do, any living being will do, is basically the same as shaking. If you felt some cold and you shaked, for example, or the animal, a dog or whatever, shaked, it's basically this movement is unintentional. It's basically compulsory. Any other action is exactly the same. There is no difference. So that's basically the الجبرية. All actions are the same. وجعل القدرية الاختيارية منها القدرية, talking about الاختياري, the optional actions, وهو ما لا يحس فيه الإلجاء إلى الفعل. So basically, he's trying to give you another explanation. What we mean by اختيارية. اختيارية, deliberate, هو ما لا يحس فيه الإلجاء إلى الفعل. There is no feeling of compulsing to do that. You don't feel that it is forced upon you. So when you shake out of cold, for example, this movement and this action is forced upon you. You have no control over it, right? Other actions where you don't feel that forcing, these are called deliberate. Then other actions that you are not forced to do basically are optional. That's basically what we mean here. So these actions, the Qadariya made them, again, the Jabriya, they basically said everything is the same. Those, whatever you call ikhtiyariya, or whatever you call deliberate or not deliberate, nothing is deliberate. Everything is compulsory. Everything is basically forced upon us. Qadariya said, al-ikhtiyariya, we have to differ, and we say the ikhtiyariya, the optional منها of these actions, مخترعا للحيوان, is something that the being, that human, that living creature, the living being, invent by qudra, by a power, by the creatures or the being's own power, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in that, or gave it to him. على سبيل, on a way of استقلال, like standalone. It's basically his own power. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, it's like a battery, right? You charge the battery from the outlet, and then you take the battery, is charged. The electricity coming from the outlet has nothing to do with that now. It's basically charged it, and then that battery, you can take it and use it for whatever you want to use. The power grid has nothing to do with it, right? So basically that's something like that. So basically they are saying there is a power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in the animal or the being, the living creature, the living being, and as a standalone power, and this is what creates the action, the optional or deliberate action. وليس للمولى تبارك, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no invention in it. Okay? He doesn't do it, he doesn't create it. وإنما الذي يوجده سبحانه وتعالى فيهم ما لا يتيسر منها عليهم كالألوان والطعوم والروائح وحركة الارتعاش ونحو ذلك. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in them is the actions or the effects that they have no control over. For example, كالألوان, colors, طعوم, the taste, the smells, the chill or the chill or shaking movement, and the likes. So they do the action, like for example, you eat, right? So they create the action of eating, all of it, but then they feel taste in their mouths. That taste is created by Allah because they have no control over the taste. But the everything else, like by which they ate, like the movement and grabbing something, putting it in your mouth and chewing on it, and all these movements, all these actions, all these af'al are basically created by you. You do that, not Allah. Allah has nothing to do with it. just gave you the power and you used it in that way. And of course, people who like the sects that said that, there are many sects. One of them is al-Mu'tazila, right? So that's basically the opinion of al-Mu'tazila, what they call خلق أفعال العباد. أفعال العباد are not created by Allah, it's created by the al-Qudra al-Muda'a. If you remember in al-Kharida, who said ومن يقل بالقوة المودعة فذاك بدعي فلا تلتفتي. Right? We explained that part of the poem in al-Kharida al-Bahiyya, and that's basically what al-Mu'tazila is saying. ثم قالوا, and then they said, إن الحيوان في اختراعه لأفعاله الاختيارية على ضربين. The living creature in its invention of its actions, of like its deliberate and optional actions, are on two categories or on two ways. ما وجد منها في محل قوته. Now we are going to talk about, remember when we're talking about in the explanation here, we're talking about directly or by generation, by generating something, right? So basically he's going to explain that now. ما وجد منها في محل قوته. The action that existed or happened or occurred within محل قوته, the power, or the power place, the placement of the power. محل something is basically where it exists, the place where that power is. So this like you كحركاته وسكناته, movement and being at rest. قيامه وقعوده, standing up and sitting down. مشيه وجريه, running, walking. So all that فهو مخترع له مباشرة. All these actions, that being, that living creature, living being, has invented those actions directly. Why? Because they are happening, they are occurring within himself, right? Within the place of the power, of that power that existed, that emergent power. So that's the first one, okay, which is basically مباشرة. Now we're going to talk about the generating, تولدا. وما وجد منها خارجا عن محل قوته. So basically what happened outside of that like place of the power, where the power exists or basically is housed in a sense. كتحريك الحجر والسهم والضرب بالسيف والرمح والقتل والجرح ونحو ذلك فهو مخترعة. فهو all these actions مخترعه تولدا. فهو مخترعه تولدا, like moving of the movement of a stone or a sahm, arrow. So basically if somebody when you move your hand, okay, that's basically a movement your hand does directly. But if your hand, by moving your hand, you moved a stone or a rock or an arrow, you shoot an arrow, and that arrow moved on itself. Where is the power? So the arrow does not have power in itself. How does it move then? They are saying they are moved by generation, by generating. So basically, تولدا, it is a movement that was created by, not indirectly, basically by your movement. Okay. So basically, this is because exactly what I just said. If you say, all right, you have power within yourself, and you created some movement, and that power caused that movement, so it's created within you because you have power. Allah gave you power. Allah didn't give the stone power, didn't give the sahm, the arrow power. So how is the movement of the arrow or the hajar, or even if you hit with a saif, rumh, like a spear or sword, and so on. So basically, they are saying all that is basically another type of the movement, or in the af'al, which is caused indirectly by generating or by generation. ويختلف أثر التولد عندهم باختلاف قوة العصب والأعضاء وضعفها. So they are saying that the um, the effect or the impact or the effect of that generating movement or that generating power, they are saying that it differs depending on many factors, like the power or the strength of al-asab, the nerves, and al-ada, your body organs, and so on, and how weak they are or how strong they are. ولهذا كانت حقيقة التولد عندهم the تولد عندهم really is وجود حادث عن مقدور بالقدرة الحادثة. So something emerged through the emergence of القدرة الحادثة, of the emergent power. So something that occurred through the emerging of something that occurred by the القدرة الحادثة. فحركة الحجر مثلا متولد عندهم لأنه حادث نشأ عن شيء مقدور بالقدرة الحادثة. So the emergent power caused something, and that something created the movement of the rock or whatever. And so basically that's called, that is basically what is meant in their opinion, in their madhab, about or of the tawallud. ومذهب أهل السنة والحق مجانب لكل المذهبين الفاسدين. So basically the Sheikh is saying the madhab of أهل السنة and أهل الحق, the real or the true madhab and the truth, مجانب لكل المذهبين, basically differs and doesn't follow either مذهب. وقد جمع بفضل الله بين الحقيقة والشريعة, and it basically combined الحقيقة والشريعة, combined the الشرع and the implication of the sharia and the شرع and the implication of the truth, what actually is happening. Why the Sheikh is saying that? Sheikh is saying that because if you say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like the Jibreel is saying, is creating everything, then when you don't pray, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create your action of praying. When you sin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created your action of sinning. And if that is the case, then why are you being punished? You shouldn't be punished, right? So basically that goes against the Sharia now, because Sharia, you have certain obligations, you are accountable for your action, you are accountable for whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered and bestowed upon you to do and to carry on, and so on and so forth. So their madhab therefore is basically corrupt. It cannot be real. Otherwise there is no point of Sharia. So madhab Ahl Sunnah therefore respects the Sharia from that aspect. You could say, all right, but it also respects, like also the madhab al-Mu'tazila and the other Qadariyah also respects the Sharia, because they are saying those sinning and those actions you are doing, it is because you are responsible for them. You are doing them by your own power, not Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not doing them. But again, this madhab ignored and goes against the haqiqah, the truth. And therefore, madhab Ahl Sunnah combine both. He basically respect both, respect Sharia and respects haqiqah, as we will see. وسلم بتوفيق الله تعالى من سلم, like alhamdulillah, like it's basically proper, is not flowed by those other madhabs. من بدعة الفريقين, is not flowed by those from the bid'ah and the invention of both other sides, the Jabriyah and the Qadariyah. لأنهم جانبوا الجبرية, جانبوا لأنهم meaning أهل السنة, جانبوا الجبرية mean differs, جانبوا like from a sided away from, جانبوا meaning sided away from الجبرية, because بتقسيمهم, because they divided actions to two types, اختيارية واضطرارية, deliberate and indeliberate, or necessary or compulsory. وأن الأولى مقدور للعباد. So the first one, the اختيارية, مقدورة للعباد. It is basically something that is respects or receives the power of al-ibad, or the qadr of the predetermination from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But al-ibad basically are responsible for it. Why? How is that possible? It's because they have a power or imagined power that coincides with these actions, with the deliberate actions. And that وتتعلق بها, and then establish a relation with it, with those actions, or with them, with those actions, without تأثير, without effect, without affecting them. وهذه الأفعال هي التي في وسع المكلف عادة، وبها وقع التكليف على حسب ما دل عليه الشرع. So basically, and those actions are basically what the al-ibad, we basically are responsible for and are accountable for them. All right. قال جل من قائل لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not set you accountable or responsible for something that is out of your control or out of your power. So basically, the madhab of Ahl al-Sunnah is, as we said here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the action and brings it out of non-existence to existence. Any action whatsoever. Your action is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in that sense, it is like al-Jabri. However, you also have emergent power, like emergent power, but it is not like the Qadriya saying it is a power that it creates or power that affect or impact something. Your power does not impact anything, does not affect, does not brings into existence anything. Your power merely establishes a relation with the action, coincide with the action, right? And gives you the feeling that it is your action and you are doing it. And basically this is what we call, and we're going to say what we call al-kasb. So it is the establishment of this relation because you wanted it, you desired it, you basically brought it into existence by establishing a relation with your power, with that action. Because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did it for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that because you wanted it, you desired it, you created that or established that relation with the action, okay, through your power. So you have a power, but it is not a power of ta'thir, it's not a power of invention or creation. It is a power of kasb, gaining of the action, not affecting or creating the action. So basically you can say here, okay, so the Sheikh is saying Madhab al-Sunnah is in the middle. So yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the actions, but you have the kasb, as we will see, you have that other power that coincide with the action. Now, this concept is very difficult to comprehend because you don't feel it. When you do something, when you move your hand, when you grab something and drink some water, for example, you are moving your hand. You don't feel like somebody is creating that action for you, right? It just so counterintuitive to you. And that's why like some people will have a hard time trying to comprehend it. And yeah, from that aspect, the madhab of al-Mu'tazila is easier for lay people. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created power in you and you're doing whatever you want. And, just to maintain Sharia, to respect the Sharia. But if you believe that, then you are actually ignoring al-haqiqa, the truth, the reality. And it is a bit of a Sufism thinking here. But it's actually, if you think about it, you'll find that is actually what it is. And for example, we say in al-Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَكُمْ وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah created you and what you do. Now, for So basically, Ahl Sunnah said, all right, this is a clear evidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates everything. Even your actions, Allah created, because that's what the ayah is saying. Al-Mu'tazila and others would say, no, but the context of the ayah is talking about the statue that they worship. So the ayah is just merely saying Allah created you and also those idols that you created. Allah also created those. Ahl Sunnah will rebut that and say there is no reason to go away from the clear meaning or the apparent meaning to majaz or whatever, and so on. But so again, as I said, there are volumes and volumes talking being written about that issue. So this is about that ayah, but there are actually other ayahs where I haven't seen them in any book referring to, but if you think about them, you'll see that they're talking or saying the same thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, for example, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ فَوْقَهُمْ صَافَّاتٍ وَيَقْبِضْنَ مَا يُمْسِكُهُنَّ إِلَّا الرَّحْمَنُ إِنَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ بَصِيرٌ. Have they not seen the birds above them, spreading and folding their wings? So they spread their wings. You see them in the skies, spreading their wings, folding their wings, and you say, because of physics rules and blah, 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 that movement basically is what is holding them and causing them to fly. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not saying that. He's saying, مَا يُمْسِكُهُنَّ إِلَّا الرَّحْمَنُ. None holds them up except the most compassionate, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So although you see them like moving their wings and spreading and folding and so on, and you correlate that with them flying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, actually Allah, nothing is holding them up except Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ar-Rahman is who is holding them, not their wings, not spreading and folding their wings. Right, so so that movement of or flying movement, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing it. Also, again, there is another ayah, more or less the same, also same concept. أَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ مُسَخَّرَاتٍ فِي جَوِّ السَّمَاءِ. The first ayah, by the way, is in Surah al-Mulk. This second ayah is Surah al-Nahl. أَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ مُسَخَّرَاتٍ فِي جَوِّ السَّمَاءِ مَا يُمْسِكُهُنَّ إِلَّا اللَّهُ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Have they not seen the birds glide in the open sky? None holds them except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, they say they see that the birds glide in the sky, but in reality, in truth, none holds them except Allah. And then what is the end of the ayah? Surely, in these are signs for those who believe. Right? So it's a sign. It's a sign. So I find these two ayahs are very, very clear, very, very clear about that. And in terms of accountability and your accountability and responsibility for your actions and so on, again, there is another very, very important ayah there, where Mufassirun, like there are a lot of opinions about what does it really mean. But again, if you think about it in the context of what we're talking about now, it will open a lot of doors for a very important understandings and so on. Again, the ayah is إِنَّ عَرَضْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ فَأَبَيْنَ أَنْ يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَأَشْفَقْنَ مِنْهَا وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. Indeed, we offered the trust or the amana, okay, to the heavens and the earth and the mountains. And the Mufassirin will say, basically, everybody is living in those areas. It's not the heavens themselves. It's basically to the heavens, meaning the creations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in the heavens and for the heavens. And the earth, everything that's being created on the earth or for the earth. And the mountains, again, in the mountains. But they all declined to bear it. Nobody accepted that amana, except, and everybody basically declined it, being fearful of it, and basically were afraid to carry it, but humanity assumed it. We said, no. You know what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can do it. Give it us. Yeah. Right, like that. For they are truly wrongful to themselves and ignorant of the consequences. Right? So a lot of, like, what is the amana? Again, pages and pages and pages has been written about what is that. The most likely opinion is basically these are the takalif, the responsibilities and accountability, the sharia and what you need to do, like obliged to do and so on. But again, what does that mean exactly? It means that you have a responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like gave to you, didn't give to anything else. It is when you desire something, when you want something to happen, He will create it for you, but you bear the consequences. Right? So again, when you go and kill somebody or steal something, stealing is bad, it's wrong. But because you want it, you do it, and you get that action. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create that action, will make it happen, will allow it to happen in His kingdom, although He doesn't like it. Because you desired it, you wanted it. Right? He will not say, no, I'm not going to do it because, I am just. He will allow it in this dunya. But you bear the consequences. Okay? So very, very deep meaning if you just think about it. Anyway. And because of that emergent power, we just back to where we were. Because of that emergent power, this is basically what you are responsible for. This is basically your kasb, your gaining of the action. فليس في وسعها فعل من الأفعال. You are not really able to create the action itself. You don't create the action. You just create, or you just basically coincide or correlate your action or your power with the action. Basically, that's what you do. So this is why. So this is the first side, or the first part of why Ahl Sunnah are better than Jabriyah. So basically, they agree in some aspect, but basically they are not following al-Jabriyah. They are not Jabriyah because they did all that. They divided the af'al actions to ikhtiyariyah wa ittirariyah and so on and so forth. Exactly what we just said. وجنبوا أيضا القدرية, and Ahl Sunnah also sided away from, differed from القدرية لأنهم لم يجعلوا لتلك القدرة الحادثة التي يخلق الله تعالى في الحيوانات تأثيرا البتة في أثر ما عموما. So they differed from al-Qadariyah because although they agreed with them about there is an emergent power in the living being, but this power has no effect, no power to create something from existence or out of existence or invent, right? Doesn't have effect or impact. بل الحيوان عندهم وقوته الحادثة ومقدور تلك القوة جميع ذلك مخلوق لمولاه تبارك وتعالى. So everything, even that power and the emergent power and the action and the strength and everything, all that is basically a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without intermediary, without medium. Directly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just creates that. ولا شريك أصلا بلا واسطة ولا شريك أصلا. There is no sharik, there's nothing contributed in creating that action. It's all by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. حسب, and that is because حسب, according to ما دل عليه برهان الوحدانية, according to the proof of وحدانية leads to. So the proof of وحدانية, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-wahid, oneness. And if you remember, we talked about that in al-Kharida. Oneness in what? In that, in essence, in sifat, in attributes, and in actions. So all the actions are by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from Ahl Sunnah perspective, if you create your own action, if you do your action, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like that defeats, or that goes up against the concept or the principle of wahdaniyya, oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you made a sharik, in actions. Something else, a creature will create an action under Allah kingdom or in Allah's kingdom subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah has no control over or no power over. That basically unacceptable to Ahl Sunnah. ووجوب عموم قدرته جل وعلا وإرادته لجميع الممكنات. So it is general that Allah's power has to be over and affect everything under His power, or everything else in the within the possible creatures or ممكنات basically. وعليه دل الكتاب. So basically that's the برهان الوحدانية, what is meant by الوحدانية, and also that what we talked about from Ahl Sunnah point of view, there is also دليل or أدلة, proofs from الكتاب, from القرآن والسنة وإجماع السلف الصالح قبل ظهور البدع. وإجماع السلف, consensus of the Salaf before those inventions of like Mu'tazila and Jabriya and Qadriya, and those started to come up. والحاصل, in summary basically, you say أن العبد الصحيح القوة أو القوة, the creature or the abd, the slave of Allah, الصحيح القوة, who has healthy power and basically doesn't have any impediment. القادر عند أهل الحق مجبور في قالب مختار. So basically this is the end of it. This is basically, if you want أهل السنة madhab in 4 words, basically just one sentence in 4 words is: we are مجبورين في قوالب مختارة. We are compulsed, but in a box or a qalib or a template of basically free will, right? Okay. And that's why is that? Because like it appears as you do something and you are mukhtar, you are selecting and you are doing what you want and deliberately. So it appears from certain aspect, you have free will, you do whatever you want. But the reality of it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates those actions. You don't create them yourselves. So مجبور من حيث إنه لا أثر له البتة في أثر ما عموما. So as you said, he is مجبور, forced, or have no free will, from the aspect that there is no effect. You cannot affect something in reality. You don't affect. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who does the effect with the creation. But you are just a vessel to and container, a vessel and a mean or a container for emergence and accidents to occur. يخلق المولى تبارك وتعالى فيه ما شاء. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates within you and within that وعاء, that vessel, whatever He wants. وكيف شاء, and in any way, in any mean, He wants Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا حجر عليه تعالى ولا معين. There is no restraints or limitation like on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there is no helper or assistance. ولا وكيل ولا وزير. There is no agent, there is no helper or wazir, like minister or anything like that. ومختار, so this is basically why, from the aspect from which we can be considered مجبورين, we could be considered forced. ومختار, so basically we have free will, from the aspect of what? Of إن عادة مولانا جل وعز لما جرت, the normality, Allah, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the world and created us. And this is a bit of a complicated sentence. Basically, in order to understand it, ومختار من حيث إن عادة مولانا جل وعز لما جرت معه بعدم دوام موالاة الفعل عليه صار العبد بهذه العادة العجيبة مختارا متمكنا من الفعل والترك بحسب الظاهر. Right? So it's basically because of the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the word, as we said, and the way that you have that feeling. لا سيما حال خلقه عز وجل فيه كراهة للفعل، وإنما يمده تبارك وتعالى بالفعل في بعض الأوقات على حسب الحاجة. When you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we said in the ayah, إن عرض الأمانة, when you want something and you desire it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring it to existence, will do it for you. وخصوصا حال خلقه تبارك وتعالى له عزما وتصميما. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create in you determination to do something. So you feel within yourself that you want to do that because of the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that, and the way the action is done in this way. The فعل doesn't happen, for example, that action doesn't happen like right away. It happens in a way that you feel that you are moving your hand, you feel you are doing it. It's happening and you feel it is happening as if it is happening under your control, and you are doing it. All that feeling gives you the illusion that you are actually having free will. You are actually creating the movement or creating the fell. Right? صار العبد بهذه العادة العجيبة الدالة على الدالة. So this عادة, this way of creation is basically عجيبة, is miraculous, and it is indication on the vast power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is not busy, or no action will make him busy to do about other actions. لا يشغله شأن عن شأن. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating all those actions, all those creations everywhere at the same time. Is no problem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doesn't get overwhelmed with actions or anything. So it's again, the Shaykh is reflecting and contemplating on that. وتنفذ إرادته في كل مكان, and his will, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is executed and happens everywhere. ووسع علمه كل معلوم, and he knows everything. When all those actions happen, everything is known to Allah. And when all those actions, or because of that, the way these actions are being created, as we said, you felt, you became, you have the illusion of having free will, or you have free will in a sense of al-kasb, as we were going to saying, but from the point of view of creating the movement or creating the action, it's delusion. You are not actually doing it. So you became مختارا متمكنا من الفعل والترك بحسب الظاهر, only apparently, only from the surface of it, but it's not the reality, not the truth. لا يحس إلجاء إلى ما يحب فعله ولا إكراها على ما يكره وجوده. You do not feel something is forcing you, or something is forced upon you when you are doing something you like. When you have like a piece of fruit and you want to eat it and you like it, you basically grab it, extend your hand and grab it and start eating and chewing it. You are enjoying it. You don't feel you are forced to eat it. So that action of eating is being created by Allah, but you don't feel you are forced to do it. At the same time, if you don't want to do something, you do not feel that you are forced to hate it or go away or avoid it. You actually avoid it by your own choice, because you don't want it, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create the action and create the movement and create everything without forcing you, without you feeling any compulsory or something is being forced upon you. It's amazing. So basically that's what the Shaykh is saying. So basically, subhanallah. فسبحان المولى that's why he said فسبحان المولى الملك القهار اللطيف. فسبحان الملك, king, القهار, قهار from a qahr, for basically forcing somebody to do something. So he's a qahar, but he's a latif, gentle. So he basically forced you, but gently. You don't even feel that you're forced. الذي لطف بعض قهره حتى عزب عن إدراك كثير من العقول فضلا عن الأوهام. So some of his qahr, Some feels like forcing and قهر to للعباد is very gentle and subtle to the extent that nobody is actually can realize it, not even imagine it, right? I'm pretty sure most of you, for example, who never studied this topic before, had no doubts whatsoever that you are actually creating your actions. Some, at least until now, some of you are still thinking that's a very weird concept. I don't think that's actually what's happening. It is what is happening, but again, you don't feel it. That's why you are in the delusion of creating your own action. That's not the reality of it. فاعتقدت, and that's what the Sheikh is exactly saying. فاعتقدت لجهلها بباطن الأمر. So it thought, those عقول, those minds who did not realize how subtle that qahr is of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the creation of the action. And in reality, you don't have, because Allah is going to create it, you don't have option, but you don't feel that. That's the point. And your realization or your minds do not realize it. And you think, فاعتقدت لجهل, فاعتقدت, and you think because of your ignorance of the matter in its reality, بباطن الأمر وحقيقته, in depth. You didn't know that. وكفرانها نعمة كسوة المولى جل وعز لقهره بثياب يسره وطرده آلام جبره. I mean, this is like a bit of linguistical way of expression. So again, it's basically the Sheikh is saying, some minds denied that because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covered his qahr, covered his force or compulsorily on you with the subtle or the gentleness of the delusion of you having your free will in creating those actions. إنها قد خرجت في بعض تصرفاتها عن قبضة تدبيره وعموم قدرته وإرادته. And some even went all the way to think that, right, because I'm doing it, you feel you are doing it, to the extent that some people like atheists, for example, they'll say, okay, well, I mean, or even people who sometimes believe in God, but they don't have the proper or the right set of belief, they may think that they can do whatever they want. And maybe, they can get out of the control of Allah, for example. And you find a lot of that in movies, and especially nowadays, and so on. All right. I think we stop here. Is I think it's a counterintuitive concept, as we said. So it needs a little bit of contemplation, reflection, and thinking. But this is basically the madhab of Ahl al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And as a proof of it, and one of the proofs, again, in many books and a little bit of advanced books, when we come to it, there are arguments back and forth and so on. But I think we already, I already showed you some of the ayat, which is like clearly support that point of view. But also, if you are creating your own action, you should know how it is created. So if you move your hand, or when you move your hand, can you tell me how many cells did you move? How many muscle fibers did you use? How so? How many blood, how much blood went through your vessels in order to allow that certain power of movement or certain speed of movement? You don't. You just move. You desire the movement and you move. If it was a case that you created that movement, you would have known every single aspect about it, but you don't know. You don't know even what has contributed to the movement, how it is. We only know even about that now by because of the medical practice or doctors who autonomy and study that, how people move and blah blah blah, so on and so forth. But it doesn't even come to your mind, right? So how are you creating something you don't know anything about? Because you are not creating it. It's Allah creating it. Subhanallah. Okay, so as I said, we'll stop here, inshallah, and we will continue from next time. It's just a small part is remaining, but I think that's enough for today. All right, see you, inshallah, next lesson. Assalamu alaikum.